Buildings often symbolize power. In 1927, this building here behind me was the seat of the Shanghai Provisional Municipal Government. After Chiang Kai-shek's coup on April the 12th, the Kuomintang adopted a policy of harsh repression. Strikes were banned, the labor unions were suppressed, and the communists were subjected to systematic persecution. Naturally, the question arose, should the party's headquarters remain in Shanghai? And if it did, what should its strategy be? Or might there be an alternative? If so, what was it? In July 1927, Wang Jingwei's government in Wuhan, which the communists had been supporting, proved an empty shell, and Wang himself soon afterwards turned traitor. To the party center, the only realistic option was to return to Shanghai. Despite nationalist repression, it was still the best choice. It had a large industrial labor force, and the communist networks there were strong and deeply implanted. 2 years earlier, Mao Zedong had argued that the key question for the party was, who are our enemies and who are our friends? The events of the last few months had shown how right he was. This is the Tianchan Theatre on Yunnan Road, which in 1927 was a busy shopping street in the international settlement. A staircase beside the stage leads directly to rooms on the second floor, which the party used for secret meetings. A regular participant was Deng Xiaoping, who'd returned to China after studying in Moscow. In an emergency, a police raid for instance, those present could make their getaway through the theatre. There was a passageway from the shop next door, Fuxing, which used to sell silk gauze. It too was secretly owned by the Central Committee and served as a logistics centre. This network of safe houses and secret meeting places survived undetected for 3 years. The director of Fuxing, Sheng Jinding, and his manageress ran what was in effect the party's general office. But underground party members are human too. After years working together in clandestinity, the couple fell in love. It was hardly the best moment for romance. The presence of the CCP Central Committee in the city meant there were many senior cadres living and working there, at the risk of their lives. The list of those arrested grew longer and longer. Those who refused to recant were killed. At number 90, lane 69 on Shanyin Road, Chen Duxiu's elder son, Yan Nian, was arrested on June the 26th, 1927, and afterwards beheaded. A week later, on July the 2nd, at 190 Jian Lane on North Sichuan Road, it was the turn of Zhao Shiyan, who'd helped to lead the uprising. He too was beheaded. On Jiangning Road on April the 15th, 1928, his comrade, Luo Yineng, was detained and executed. On August the 24th, 1929, at number 12, lane 613 on Xinjia Road, Peng Pai, the leader of the Hailufeng base area, was arrested, also executed. At the intersection of Yangshupu and Xujiang Road on May the 6th, 1930, Yun Daiying, the leader of the Canton uprising, was arrested. Betrayed by a turncoat, he too was executed. 3 years later, on May the 15th, 1933, the labor organizer Dong Jungsha was arrested and killed. As you can see, all these places were quite close together, at most a few miles apart, and almost all were inside the foreign concessions. The communists had been using the special status of the concessions as protection against the nationalist police. But after 1927, the situation changed. The extraterritorial privileges of the foreigners were whittled away. Chinese courts were given jurisdiction over non-treaty port nationals. The Kuomintang authorities insisted that the concession police hand over what they called communist criminals. And in most cases, the police were only too happy to oblige. In any case, they had to. Chiang Kai-shek's government tolerated no exceptions. In the face of all this repression and the accompanying loss of life, Communist Party membership plummeted. People started asking themselves whether the Soviet model of proletarian revolution was the only way, or even the right one. There were sharp disputes within the party leadership, and between the party leaders and the Comintern in Moscow. Some of the party's leaders began to explore the possibility of moving the revolution to the countryside and mobilizing the peasants. Mao Zedong was the first to understand that. In the vast rural areas of China, the Kuomintang's writ did not run. If the communists could introduce policies which benefited the peasantry, they'd be able to build a powerful base of rural support. Mao Zedong refused to follow orders to attack Changsha and marched to the Jinggan Mountains, where he set up the first revolutionary base area. Before long, others followed his example. This is the route of what we might call the Communists' underground railroad from Shanghai to the Central Soviet area in Jiangxi. One of those who used it was Zhou Enlai in 1931. The Central Committee, then working deep underground, sent him to the Jiangxi base to prepare for the possible transfer of party headquarters if the pressure in Shanghai became too great. Traveling through Kuomintang-controlled territory and then across the no-man's land where the communist and nationalist armies were fighting for control was not easy. But that was how the party center would go when it eventually moved from the city to the countryside. As more and more communists left for the rural areas, revolutionary bases were established all over central and southern China. However, the route worked both ways. The Communist Party had been founded in Shanghai. Its leaders understood that while the red areas would provide the springboard for eventual victory, the movement would have to succeed in the cities, the white areas, as well.